Alright, we're going to go on live here in just about 10 minutes.
You don't know the power of the dark side. You don't know the power of the dark side. You don't know the power of the dark side. You don't know the power of the
All right. Welcome, guys and ladies. All right. If you guys don't know who I am, I'm Quantum Leaper. I'm the founder and lead developer, lead maintainer of uPlexa. This presentation was created for a local event here in Chiang Mai, Thailand, that I presented last week. And I thought it would be good to present to the community and kind of just go over everything kind of in depth, but still kind of keep that basic vibe to it. So what we'll do is we'll go through the basics. What is uPlexa, where to start, how to get to the point it's at now, what our initial goals were, what our goals are now, what we're trying to accomplish, and then after that we can have some questions if you guys have any. But yeah, so we'll just we'll get started here. All right, so what is uPlexa? Obviously, we're a privacy-centric cryptocurrency, and we are forked from Monero's version of CryptoNote, so their fork of CryptoNote. So a brief history lesson here. Monero was a fork of BitMonero, which was a fork of Bitcoin, which is a fork of CryptoNote. So along the way, Monero was able to increase the privacy of the chain, and it did really well in doing that. But there were some things that we didn't particularly agree with, and I'll get into that in a bit here. We're also an IoT minable proof of work based chain, so we focus on things like microarchitectures such as ARM devices, so the devices in your phones, your tablets, the Raspberry Pis, etc. We work on ASIC mitigation to ensure that the mining is profitable for the average user, especially because we're really focused on that casual mining experience where anybody can mine. We are also working on layer 2 blockchain powered privacy tools. Some of those would be PlexaNet, for example, which is a dVPN that's upcoming here. And we're moving into a proof of stake / proof of work split. So 20% of the block rewards will go to proof of stake, and 80% will continue to go to proof of work, so IoT miners. Now, utility nodes are going to be the nodes in which you stake with, so that they power the proof of stake. They help reduce the chances of 51% attacks. They allow for quicker TX validation, so quicker transaction speeds, and they act as relays for PlexaNet. So why was uPlexa initially created? So one of the main reasons initially was IoT minting to enable the most decentralized proof of work. There's billions of IoT devices out there. Like I said, phones, you got smart TVs, Android boxes, tablets, Raspberry Pis, etc. We feel that the most decentralized way that you could actually get a proof of work algorithm working is to focus on devices that everybody has access to. So that's why we wanted to start there. I was working on a project called CryptoLoot back in 2017, and essentially it was this browser-based miner. It was using Monero at the time, and we noticed like it got big. Like there's hundreds of thousands of concurrent connections at any given second, and my job was to scale that. But we noticed about 64% of those users were IoT devices. So these webmasters that would install the script on the website, people would go to their website and essentially mine for them as an alternate monetization model. And so, yeah, 64% of these were IoT devices. And back then, there was this whole stigma that IoT mining is just not profitable. It's just not, it's not worth doing. And it was. And even on a chain, it's not particularly made for it. So that's where we decided to start. We also, of course, wanted to keep it web mining compatible. Our ASIC mitigation tactics are a little bit different than Monero's. So Monero hard forks twice a year, so bi-yearly hard forks every 6 months, based on suspicion that there is ASICs on the network. So where we disagree with this is that it only takes about 6 to 7 weeks to really develop a prototype of an ASIC, and about 9 to 12 weeks to start, to develop for mass manufacturing, essentially. So you could have ASICs on the network within 3 months. And this would happen with Monero, where ASICs were developed, and then 3 months later, the hash rate just spikes, and 90% of the network is dominated by ASICs for 50% of the time. We decided that we would do an emergency hard fork consensus. So we have a prepared algorithmic switch, and it's closed source. But 2 weeks prior to shifting, if we notice that there's any suspicion of ASICs on the network, we're going to release that code and give everybody 2 weeks to switch over. Now, there are some problems with that. There are things like casual miners just might not have enough time. They might not realize it right away, and they might not be able to switch right away, which could somewhat weaken the network. But it could also reduce the profits for those miners. But in our opinion, that's a lot better than having ASICs on the network for 50% of the time that dominate 90% of the network. So we also implemented a linear weighted moving average algorithm. It's a difficulty algorithm to prevent flash hashing attacks. So what a flash hashing attack essentially is someone comes to the pool, they send, or to the network, and they send a lot of hash rate or power to the network, and the difficulty slowly increases. So it's really slowly increasing, even though it should catch up a little bit quicker. And what happens is blocks are found a lot quicker. With our network, blocks are found every 2 minutes. And if someone throws in, 100% more hash power, we're going to be finding blocks like every minute. And he's going to get a lot of that because he's dominating the network. And then he'll leave at whatever point. And then all of a sudden the difficulty algorithm now is to catch up, right? So it's got to meet that median of 2 minutes. And so it could take 3, 5, 10, 15 minutes to find a block, which decreases block times. And it also decreases, essentially, the block rewards stay the same, but you don't get as many rewards. So it also hurts the miners, which is why we decided to implement the LWMA algorithm. Something that Monero hasn't done yet. And I love Monero. I'm not bashing them. Privacy-centric, obviously that's something that we wanted to stick to the roots of. We weren't going to remove the privacy features from CryptoNote. It's the reason that we were using it. So, alright, so the thing is we found out how to essentially mint in one of the most fair and decentralized ways when it comes to proof of work, but we didn't really have a reason for people to integrate us or to use us, other than the fact that, hey, we're just this cool project with very fair mining. So we needed to focus on demand-based use cases, and we did stuff like we worked on we got WHMCS, Magento, OpenCart, Shopify, PrestaShop, and WooCommerce plugins. But this is like an external integration. This is just sitting there and hoping or chasing after a bunch of people saying, could you please integrate us? And they're like, why? Like, you don't have liquidity, you don't have this massive volume. Why would I integrate you? Like, pay me. And there's this wall that all these cryptocurrencies are running at, which is like, we want to get integrated on Amazon, we want to get integrated on Pornhub, we want to get integrated here, there, whatever. And it's like, instead of running at those same walls, running at weekly exchange listings and these bogus partnerships that really seem to provide almost no value 90% of the time, we wanted to actually do something that made sense. So the first thing that we were doing was we were working on Shopee.com. We're still working on it. It's our e-commerce platform. But more importantly, where we started to kind of shift our focus was our PlexaNet.org decentralized VPN, which I'm going to talk about quite a bit tonight here. And so, yeah, it's essentially a blockchain-powered VPN with multi-hops, and let's get into that. So PlexaNet dVPN utilizes an onion routing protocol for advanced privacy by using a multitude of hops. So if you're unfamiliar with a multitude of hops, let's just start from the basics. If you visit a website directly, your ISP, maybe anybody sniffing on your network, they can see what site you're accessing. There are some attack vectors they could use. I mean, if the site's using SSL, it's not so much likely that the data that's sent between you and the website will be compromised. There could happen. There are some vulnerabilities, but essentially, people can track, where you're routing through. And people on the end of that server, if they had your IP, they could also be up to no good as well. So a traditional VPN adds a middleman in between, right? So you connect to one server and then you connect to the website or application. Whereas a multi-hop VPN essentially connects to, in this case, like three servers. So it's you, one server, two server, three server, and then the destination, right? So these relays in between, the last one being the exit node, only knows the node before that, which only knows the connection before that, which then knows the connection to you. So it's a lot more secure and private. It's a lot like Tor, but it's a little bit faster, and I'll explain why. So we incentivize node operators to utilize high bandwidth machines with sufficient resources, including but not limited to powerful connections. So what we do here is we create a mutual exchange of value between the node operator and the network. So with Tor, essentially what happens is people, for the most part, they just run nodes out of volunteership. You don't get paid for it or nothing like that. So if you're in a hobby, there's a good chance that you're not going to be, dumping money or even just spending $15 a month to support that node. Whereas in this case, what we're doing is we are providing these node operators with with essentially dividends via block rewards, and they get 20% of the block rewards, and in order to keep that machine running, to ensure that they're using high bandwidth machines, and of course that'll all be in the tutorials. But if it's not, it's not a strong connection, it will just get essentially disconnected from the network, and penalized for that, which no investor wants. So that's kind of the idea in terms of how we're going to make it faster than Tor. We also are able to reduce the chances of civil attacks via chain economics and the overall cost to perform such attacks. So again, with having a node, you have to stake 2 million uPlexa within a node, or you can join a pooled node for 1/4 of that, so 500,000 UPX, which you then get 25% of that specific node's rewards. Anyways, to perform a civil attack, you need about 33% of the network's total nodes, essentially, and that would be really expensive in this case. As you buy more nodes, you're buying through those liquidity walls in the exchanges, and you've got to stake it for a minimum of 30 days. It would be pretty unrealistic for anybody to even try to do something like that, and it's definitely a lot more secure than Tor in that aspect. So we're going to launch this service for free at first. The idea is to get some recognition, get some virality. If people start to notice, like, hey, instead of using ExpressVPN for $15 a month, or instead of using NordVPN for $6 to $10, depending on your subscription, you can use this more secure, auditable VPN for free. I think that'll really catch people's attention. But obviously, with that said, once we start to go viral and everybody starts using it, it will cause some kind of network congestion. So once we kind of see the network getting used a lot, is when we're going to implement the per usage fee or per megabyte fees to prevent network congestion and further incentivize node operators as an extra bonus to their staking dividends. So per usage fees will also be allocated to us in the form of a multi-signature wallet as a monetization model to further expand and finally have some capital so we can pay some more full-time team members, pay for exchange listings, security audits, things like that are obviously really, really important. And we haven't really yet found a good way to monetize, and this is one of those things. So the per usage fees are great too, because essentially in your wallet, you can send a certain amount to your wallet, and you can lock it towards the VPN, and the network just automatically regulates how much to take out. Now, how much does it take out? It takes out between $1 to $2 worth of UPX on average for the average user. At least that's the goal, which is obviously dramatically cheaper. There's no credit cards, no subscriptions. You're only paying for what you're using. And the thing that we like about this too, in terms of the use case, is that regardless of whether or not uPlexa is going down, whether it's going up, whether there's a whole bull cycle or bear cycle within the whole crypto economy, people will still be buying uPlexa because they still need access to the network. And regardless of whether 10,000 uPlexa is $1 or 100,000 uPlexa is $1, or one uPlexa is $1, they're still going to buy it because the network fee is still based off of fiat in that way. So it's trying to be between $1 to $2 per month for the average user. Another thing is no customer data is logged, so other than your email, if you choose to subscribe to our newsletter. When you go to download PlexaNet, it'll ask you to put it in, your email that is, and if you don't want to, that's completely fine. We don't need that. There was some kind of VPN provided about 3 or 4 weeks ago that was compromised, and there's a lot of customer data that was leaked, so not so private. There's also the fact that there's a lot of people out there who've heard of Bitcoin and they just don't want to get into it, especially now with all this like KYC stuff, and it's going to take them, average user maybe 2-3 hours before they can get into an exchange, figure out how to use it, do all the the sign up, the 2FA, the KYC, etc. And so people just don't want to really get into it right away. And when we have the per usage fees, say that they miss out on the whole free trial period that we have when we're trying to gain that virality and recognition, and they're like, I want to try it, but I don't want to spend 3 hours and maybe send like the minimum amount to an exchange of $10 so I can get access to it. Well, it's no problem. All you got to do is you got to download one of our miners to your mobile phone and mine for a couple of hours, or your tablet or your PC, or mine on all of them at the same time. And then, boom, a couple hours later, you just put it down, go do something else, and then you got access to the network. And if you like it, you like it a lot more than traditional VPN providers, then you can continue to mine to continue to have access to the network, or you can finally get around to signing up an exchange and getting some crypto now that you realize there is a huge use case. And I like that aspect to it because it will bring more people into crypto and have them realize it's not just all speculation. There are very valid use cases such as this one. Now, why use PlexaNet over a traditional VPN? Again, it's multi-hop. It's cheaper. It's open source, so it's auditable. You can see that we're not abusing your data. We're not storing anything anywhere. And of course, you can gain access to it with just mining. And it's also per usage fees. There's no credit cards. There's no PayPal. We're not charging subscription fees. You don't got to subscribe for a year to get a cheap price. So that's PlexaNet. So I'm going to talk about some of the mistakes we have learned from. We do make mistakes. Single point failure, one main developer, myself. That was brutal. There was times I was working 60-70 hour weeks and preparing for some kind of release, and we'd release it, and I would kind of burn out for a couple weeks and start it all over again. And it was brutal. And now I don't work anywhere than 40 to 50 hours per week, and we're kind of increasing the size of our team. We've got some people on our trial team, and it's going pretty good. We got more people contributing to the project. As I said before too, we were running at the same wall as the entire industry in terms of just like chasing after constant exchange listings and partnerships and trying to get listed on e-commerce platforms and whatever it may be, rather than just developing our own internal economy based off our own internal use cases. Right now, our websites, UIs, if you've ever been to them, I'm sorry, they're horrible. They're overwhelming. There's a lack of focus on user simplicity, and I've spent way too much time on the conceptualization of functionality rather than cleaning things up and making it easier to use for the average user. So luckily we have a awesome front-end guy that's working on that now, really sprucing things up to give that polished look that we've been lacking since the beginning. And of course, lack of capital has been huge. I never really thought it was going to be this hard on this side of the crypto industry. I thought that we were all going to just support each other. But then I realized that all these exchanges, they just want money to list you. They're not really in it for the tech. They're just in it for the money, which is fine because third-party exchanges aren't going to be that necessary any longer very soon. Between we got Uniswap with the DeFi swap, soon we're going to have cross-chain swaps, like being able to transfer UPX straight to Bitcoin or to Litecoin or to Dogecoin or whatever you want, and vice versa, without having to go through an exchange, without having to do KYC. So that's huge, but we are trying to make up for that lack of capital, because we will still need capital in the future by monetizing PlexaNet, as I mentioned earlier, but still going to be super cheap. Current objectives, launching PlexaNet on testnet. That's what we're working on right now, obviously. We're trying to get it on testnet within about the next 20 to 25 days. And then, of course, we got to do self-audits in conjunction with third-party audits of the entire blockchain on PlexaNet before we put it on mainnet. We don't want to pull off a a YAM and launch something that's completely broken, unaudited, untested, and lose people's monies. Implementing a per megabyte fee for PlexaNet. Again, that'll be something that we're going to be implementing in the future, after we're already on mainnet, after people have already gained access to it for free. And on top of low latency based path creation, we want to allow users to pick their endpoint geographical position, so that the exit node, we want to make it, of course, that the users can change to whatever location they would like. And that's for more so for people who would like to avoid specific censorship, especially regional-based censorship. So if you're even just using Netflix and you're trying to access Netflix America and you're in Thailand, or you're trying to access a video on YouTube and it's not available in your country, pretty basic use case, and it's something that is going to be crucial that we add as well. Of course, we're also working on new websites and UIs for that polished look I was talking about, an iOS miner and an iOS wallet. And we really would like to, we haven't started this, but we'd really like to get into working on a proof of concept for the decentralized cross-chain swaps. Again, like I said, mitigating the necessity of centralized exchanges. Yeah, those are our objectives. And some links and resources. If you guys are here and have been a part of the community for a while, I'm sure you've seen all this stuff, but this site are really bad. They're going to be fixed soon, so don't worry. The KB, it's not the prettiest either, but it's a knowledge base, so that's just how it is. So we'll get into the Q&A here. Just gonna have a sip of water. I'm sorry if I just flew right through that too. If I went way too fast and you guys want me to go back and kind of explain things a little bit better, you're more than welcome to do that. Just let me know. If you have any questions, just throw them at me and we'll start getting into them. Improve the speed of the transfers in the future. In terms of, yeah, of course. So with PlexaNet, the steadfast storm, we actually do want to use the nodes to increase transaction fees. Not increase transaction fees, increase transaction times. So as I was saying here, quicker TX validation. So being able to validate blocks quicker. Essentially, each block right now is 2 minutes long, and it takes 10 blocks to confirm a payment. So about 20 minutes to confirm a payment. And I would like to see us get that down to eventually one day between 30 and 45 seconds would be great. And there's a few things that we have to do. There's specific dynamics, of course, like decreasing our block time, or adding some kind of protocol that doesn't necessarily have to work on block confirmations. But I think the big thing is just reducing block time and reducing the confirmations. And with PlexaNet, we'll be able to for sure reduce block confirmation times, or block confirmations themselves. So we could do, like, let's say maybe 2 or 3, so that's 4 or 6 minutes, and then eventually we could implement some kind of solution to reduce our block times without bloating our blockchain, and getting our transaction times to, if we can get our block time to 15 seconds, and we have to do 2 or 3 verifications, so there you go, it's 30 and 45 seconds. So yes, we are definitely working on increasing the speed of our transactions. For the Q&A, my main doubt ATM is how the process works. Any third-party app will be able to reroute its users' traffic through PlexaNet. Okay. Yeah, so essentially through a UNAP, services or developers, I haven't talked about this, so thank you for asking. Services or developers could route their traffic through PlexaNet, and they could even do advanced load balancing with things like Nginx and PlexaNet. But essentially, just like Tor, you can route, like if you ever use BISC, it's a decentralized exchange. You can essentially route BISC through it. It is routed through it. Same with Brave Privacy Browser has an add-on for Tor. It'll be quite easy to do. The thing is there will be fees. So you could either charge your users a subscription model and pay for it out of your own wallet, or have them attach their own wallet to the app, or whatever it may be. But that will be something that's explained in a tutorial, probably during testnet. Latest will be, of course, right as we launch on mainnet. Okay. Is that all the questions? Or is anybody confused about anything, or have anything specific? Did I answer the question about the routing through PlexaNet to your standards? All right. So I think that sums it up. I'd like to do another one of these. We're gonna do another presentation, especially as we get on the testnet. I'll probably be doing a video tutorial series on how to set up a node, how to configure it, how to get it all going, and we'll have some text-based guides as well. Yeah, we'll try to get that scheduled as soon as possible. Do you have a timeline? What's next? Okay, we'll answer a few more questions here. Do you have a timeline? What's next? So right now is PlexaNet. That's what's next right now. What's after what's after PlexaNet would be focusing on things like self-audits in conjunction with third-party audits. We will actually be focusing on a couple of exchange listings, but really just when it comes to third-party ones, we only want to be on reputable exchanges now that have like a transparent security process. So we will be working on that as well. Of course, implementing the per megabyte fees and pretty much everything on this page here. The new websites, the IS wallet, and of course, decentralized cross-chain swaps. So not just like ERC20 to ERC20 swaps between smart contracts, but actually being able to swap coins between blockchains themselves. Also, what's the PlexaNet OS timeline of release? So Windows and Linux first. Yeah, so we'll be on Windows and Linux first, and then we want to be able to get it compiled for Linux and iOS as soon as possible as well. Getting it compiled for mobile devices will definitely be at some point later down the road of mainnet, so not during testnet. Any more details about how staking will work with only 500,000 uPlexa? Yeah, so there will be a tutorial about it, but essentially how it works is that there's going to be like a pooled node on the network, and you're going to be able to essentially, or there's going to be multiple, but you can essentially join that pooled node with 500,000 uPlexa, and you'll get 25% of the rewards, and it's automatically regulated, so you don't have to just hope that the node operator pays you. When you go to join a node, it'll ask you, like, are you going to be staking the full amount, or are you going to be joining a pooled node? Yeah, so what do you think a uPlexa Satoshis would be worth in 6 months? I'm not sure. I'm not here to give financial advice, unfortunately. Sorry about that. Do you have a deadline for the go live of the system? PlexaNet. So we want to be on testnet, like I said, about 20 to 25 days, and then hopefully be able to get onto mainnet anywhere from about 45 days to 90 days. So about a month and a half to 3 months after that. Initially, it was going to be 1 month, but we do need to do those audits. We do need to test the crap out of it, because it's a lot of big changes, and we don't want to release something buggy. But testnet within the next 20 to 25 days. Can you give your quick take on the Monero issue this week? Yeah, for sure. So there's some information about a company called CipherTrace. CipherTrace is a company that was hired by the U.S. government to try and find vulnerabilities within Monero itself. So what they did was they took some auditing tools that the Monero Labs had developed themselves to audit their own chain to see how private it is. And they found a couple of small issues. One of them has to do with outputs. It's a little bit technical. I won't go too deep into that. Solutions of solving it is literally just having more transactions on your chain, or removing essentially minted outputs. So there's this thing with Monero and crypto coins. There's a Coinbase transaction, not to confuse with the exchange. And then you have like a standard output, which is just like when you were actually sending a transaction yourself. So not one from a new block that's being minted, but one that you're actually pushing out into the network. And so the chances of using a coin-based as a decoy within those outputs when you're sending the transaction, because you use 10, essentially you mix between 10 outputs, the chances of using a Coinbase because of the amount of transactions on the network is relatively high, and that can somewhat reduce privacy levels. But the bigger parts is this company correlates specific data points and data sources. So one thing that I have to say for sure, if you're using uPlexa, it's not like the one-stop shop, or at least if you're just using uPlexa payments, it's not the one-stop way to be completely private or anonymous. And of course, those are two different meanings, anonymous and privacy, right? Same with if you're using a VPN. Like if you want to practice like a maximum amount of operational security, it's something that you have to really train yourself for. But if you're just looking for like a smaller level, then you can just start with like VPN and then using private payments, right? If you send someone Bitcoin right now from your wallet, they can see how much you have in your wallet, what other transactions you made, etc. But again, if you're like an ambassador for a country and you're in another country, you probably want to practice a higher level of OPSEC than, you know, a streamer who's playing video games in his room. Like the streamer should probably use a VPN so he doesn't get DDoS and disconnected from the network. Probably shouldn't have photos of his family on the wall and calendar appointments of where he's going to be and when. But it's pretty basic stuff. And another thing too is if you are using web wallets, don't do that if you're looking for complete anonymity. Browsers are a lot easier to compromise than operating systems. And don't use the Android wallet. I'll go ahead and say that because you're downloading it from unless you're downloading the APK directly, but if you're downloading the actual app from the Play Store, it connects to Google and reports data. Same with iOS, etc. You can go a further step by using something like PureOS, or the Purism phone. It's a privacy-based phone. And you can use that with our APK. Anyways, these things, even though it's communicating with Google, or there might be some plugin that can tell that you're logged into the web wallet, or you're using Google Chrome and you're logged into it and Google knows that you're using that website at a specific time. These can be used in data correlation attacks. So they don't know how much you have, where you're sending it, stuff like that. They can't compromise your wallet, but it can be used in data correlation attacks. And what it is really is they try to get as much micro pieces of data and footprints and put it all together to kind of find out who you are. And so that's how some of the attacks have been done. And of course, so try to stay away from those. The best way to do it would be use the official wallets for your PC. If you really want anonymity, you can go the extra step of using a Linux distro. You can even use privacy-oriented Linux distros and learn this crazy world of OPSEC. But if you just want to hide your payments, you just want to hide your IP or whatnot, you just use the VPN. You can use the Android wallet. Sorry, that was kind of a in-depth one, but I could go all day on that one, to be honest. How close to testnet? For PlexaNet, 20 to 25 days. Distribution of block reward under the proposed changes. So our block rewards are on a emission curve. So they are slowly decreasing over time. Right now they're about 2,000 per block, so 2,000 UPX every 2 minutes. And somewhere around like 1 million per day. And so IoT miners or proof of work miners get 100% of that right now, and they're going to get 80% of that in the future because there's always going to be a lot more IoT devices. There's billions out there. And we don't need billions of utility nodes. A couple thousand would be fine. So that's why 20% will be going to utility nodes. Okay, that looks like all of the questions. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end this. Thank you guys all for joining. Hope I was able to clear some things up for you and provide information to the community that you guys might have otherwise not seen before or somehow had missed. We're going to definitely do another one of these soon, so if you're not subscribed to our newsletter, you can go to our website, subscribe to the newsletter, join our Discord, join our Telegrams, follow us on Twitter, and yeah, thanks for joining, guys.